We talk about awareness and how to grow awareness and whatnot. Still, the fact always remains, someone has gone to Google to look at information, to research brands, and so you sort of just need to be there. We have this conversation with clients often. It's like, this ad creative doesn't look all that good. And I'm like, yeah, but here's the data. It's working really well. And so how do we do both those things? How do we try and improve our brand awareness and our brand perception with better quality inventory, whilst also making sure we're making money, right? We're driving sales, we're driving revenue, which is the really important part. If you want to drive just cheap clicks, you could do it on programmatic or GDN or something like that for 2-3 cents when you might be paying $1 or $2 on search. And so you think, wow, that traffic has to work 50 times harder to be able to actually kind of, compare weight for weight. But it often can, because, if you're just reading a blog or whatever, you're not as engaged as someone who's gone to Google and told you they're looking for your product. I look for kind of all those skills. So it's not just the technical part. I often think, can I put this person in front of a client? Are they an innovative thinker? Have they also got the technical skills? And so I kind of try and test all those things, see if they think creatively, ask what was a cool innovation you came up with recently, and how did you roll it out, and how did it work well?
Hi, Richard.
Hey, Brim, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. Good
Welcome.
to be here.
Yeah, good to have you here. Welcome to Reload the Fold.
Absolute pleasure.
It's the pleasure is mine. I don't know if we've had someone who's a search expert,
okay.
But I don't want to reveal too much. I'll let you do the intro.
Sure. So, Rich Hartley, and I am head of paid search at Publicis. Work with yourself, obviously there. And I've been doing paid search my entire career, so 18 years or so now. Wow, how did that happen? I've been just purely paid search. So it's I found this niche in my industry. I found my passion for it as well, and so love the fact that we're making cool paid search strategies for all our clients, which is what I get a kick out of. So happy to be talking about it here as well.
That's very exciting. I think you have so much to bring to the show, right, and to our listeners and viewers when it comes to paid search. But before we get to search,
sure.
We were just talking right before we started recording about your background, which is and your hobbies, which is playing for a band or playing music, and more particularly being a drummer.
Yep.
And you were just talking about how that taught you some elements that you brought in with you to business.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. So a big part of me being in a band was kind of creating this Rockstar persona on stage. It was like, it's strange that people who get into bands are often a little bit introverted. I think I am a little bit. And so I go on stage and kind of created a character. And loads of other kind of rock stars apparently do this. I guess I'm a rock star. But it's then found I was able to transition that onto client meetings and doing presentations on stage. It's like getting into my business rich persona, as I call it. And I'm able to kind of get into character and put on a show. And so the preparation I do beforehand is me preparing to flip that character. And so, business rich is more extroverted than me. He's more of a character. He's got more charisma. And that's kind of me being a little bit introverted, is how I've then able to be comfortable in front of clients and comfortable talking about the kind of things and doing this sort of stuff now, because I'm switched into business rich. So this is business rich here,
Right. and I sort of get it when you speak to clients about digital marketing or let alone search strategies. It's a little bit complex, and if you don't have the right tone and the right attitude, you can lose the client.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Look, I've understood that whereas I find all this stuff really interesting, a lot of people sometimes don't. And so I think it's good to just, have it, just be a bit passionate about it, show the passion in it. And that's the same whether it's in interviews, whether it's in client meetings. If you can just show that you do genuinely care, or at least just effectively create the perception that you care, which I do, obviously, then that will serve you so well. And it makes meetings more engaged, it makes clients more engaged, it makes it more fun, I think, as well. I think the concept of being in fun is a bit of a taboo in business, but if we can enjoy what we do, we get we can communicate better, and ultimately we get better results as well.
Right.
So I think that's important.
And why wouldn't you care about search? Right? Why would you care? Why wouldn't you care about a search strategy?
It is,
Search is exciting.
Exactly, it is.
Right?
But it is it is, compared to other areas of marketing, I think it is, much less interesting. Because if you're doing billboards or TV adverts, it's kind of everyone have an opinion on the creative, and you can talk about script and actors and creative approach, and that's great. And that then translates to similar channels to what I do, like the paid social side. Everyone understands paid social, and you can look creative and you can show videos. When it's paid search and it's spreadsheets of keywords and text ads only, it's not quite as sexy.
Yeah.
But and so we need to make it a little bit fun. I love the fact that we've got, we can take a huge amount of data, analyze it in a spreadsheet. I can get learnings out of it. That's really cool. But when it's just text, it's not a whole lot of things to make it really exciting, I guess.
But I mean, if you look at the numbers,
Yeah.
right, when it comes to search,
Yeah.
it is exciting. I mean, I
Absolutely.
understand the setup and the complexity of it, but
yeah.
the ROI
Yeah.
is pretty substantial.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. It's that we can come in on a Monday morning, having tried something out over the weekend, and we can definitively show whether it has worked or not. So for TV ads, it's you kind of don't really necessarily know whether it's worked or not. I know there's a whole industry around people measuring TV ads and their eventual performance and ROI, but that's for paid search. It's a click, and then it's a purchase. And if we can get them to do that more, attribution aside, then we can just, deliver actual genuine results to the clients, and also just kind of feel good about ourselves. We've done this thing. We've tested it. It worked. The line on the graph is going upwards. Cool. Great.
Yeah.
That's what I love it about that. And so it's so quantifiable, more so than any other channel.
I mean, at the end of the day, it is the biggest platform or visited website in the world, right? Is that still the case, right? For Google search.
Probably, yeah. I mean, the lines are now blurred between websites and apps. So if you include apps of that, it'd probably be TikTok or Facebook or whatever. But yeah, still, it's like it's a verb. You go and you Google something. You want information, you go and Google it. And if we can have paid search there as part of that conversation, you think it would be not going anywhere. So that's job security, I guess, as well. But still, there's a lot of changes going on in the industry.
Right, and the level of intent also on search versus other platforms, right? There's so much for brands to
Absolutely.
to take advantage of.
Absolutely. And that's despite the fact we talk about awareness and how to grow awareness and whatnot, still the fact always remains someone has gone to Google to look at information, to research brands, and so you sort of just need to be there. And, the click costs might be more on paid search because everyone else kind of knows that. You are advertising to an audience who has told they want to be advertised to. And so that is something you just can't ignore. How much you pay for it, I guess, is the important part. But yeah, there's always going to be people who are showing you intent, and therefore search is going to be, should always be an integral part of anyone's advertising
How much
campaign.
you pay for it? That's an important. I feel like a cool, I guess, area that we need to tap into, because
Sure.
I agree with you. Like sometimes CPC is a little bit higher than. I'm being very, very
No, it's a lot
correct
higher.
here. It's a lot higher, right?
A lot higher. Look.
And it's not always straightforward to justify.
Yeah.
We'll get to like the key metrics for effective
Cool.
search advertising, right? That the advertisers need to look at. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about how paid search, from a holistic point of view or from a general view, right, has changed and has evolved, right, in the past few years.
Yeah.
And I'd like to hear that from you. Yeah.
Obviously it's changed a lot. I hit 40 recently. There's a strange thing that happens in a man's life when they hit 40. You get suddenly very nostalgic. And so I've realized I've been doing this a long time, having, fairly recently moved to a new company, and you realize that everyone else is younger than you. You kind of go, wow, I can look back at a long way in my career and think a lot has changed. So we do talk about there's been a lot of change in the previous last few years, but there was a lot of change in the few years before that and the few years before that, I guess, as well. And so it's kind of been a continuation of the same thing. Over my career, there has been more things we can do with data, more things we can do with automation. And we've gone from, quite manual approaches to keyword sets to machine learning and big data, and that was a thing. And now we're on to AI. But it's just a continuation of the same theme. It is us being able to take data, automating it more. And I think what has really changed is that we've now got to the point where there's too much data to be able to know how we're analyzing it as well. We used to be able to have data in a spreadsheet and we can understand it. Now we've got black box algorithms that we then need to either figure out how to control or how to just sort of trust. The whole thing about AI is that we don't really know how it works. It is a machine that has learned to teach itself the thing that it has done. And so we are never going to be able to know why it does the things it do. Why is it spending that much for that particular keyword? And so as there's a challenge there for the marketers. Do we try and gain control, which we can sometimes do? Do we trust the computers to do our jobs for us? And what is the payoff and balance between those two? Because there's pros and cons to either way, but I tend to veer more towards the trusting of the AI because it's going to be less and less escapable over time, I think, as well.
I think what worries some search experts and maybe advertisers and people and agency folks as well is the bias from these platforms that are rolling out these AI tools, right?
Yeah.
In generating results versus generating revenue for them.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, they do need to generate results. Otherwise, they won't bring that ad spend, right? Versus,
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
When it comes to, the choice that advertisers have to make on how to spend their money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, trusting them to do that is the hard part, because often they can do things you don't expect, I guess, as well. Because we have a traditional view that we take high quality creative and we show it in high quality inventory, and then we're going to therefore be able to target a high quality audience, and they'll come to our site and they'll buy and they'll love our brands, et cetera, et cetera. And so when we've got algorithms like Performance Max in Google Ads that is showing ads that maybe isn't all that good quality to audiences that might not be the best quality, on inventory that might not be the best quality, but it's working better because it's got more data to work with, that's really uncomfortable because it challenges what our typical perceptions are of what good advertising is as well. And the creative will get better and the targeting will get better. And so, where we have this conversation with clients often, it's like, this ad creative doesn't look all that good. And I'm like, yeah, but here's the data. It's working really well. And so how do we do both those things? How do we try and improve our brand awareness and our brand perception with better quality inventory, whilst also making sure we're making money, right? We're driving sales, we're driving revenue, which is the really important part.
Yeah, and when it comes to rising platforms or other search engines that are emerging, right? The likes of Amazon, TikTok search ads, any contender here? I wouldn't say maybe contender, but maybe any noteworthy search engine that's generating results.
There is still a bit of a disconnect, I think, in the industry between social search and paid search, and I think there always will be because they're very different. People go to social to look at what brands are hot, and they are asking how to do things. So it's very different search to what people are doing on Google, where they want to either purchase or get written information or whatever. So you can copy and paste a list of keywords from Google to Bing. You can't do it from Google to TikTok or whatever. But the most interesting platform I think that's coming up is ChatGPT's new search engine. So SearchGPT launched in beta, I think, in the past week or two. So it's coming out of beta pretty soon. And we've had a lot of people get comfortable using ChatGPT for information. Now people know what kind of information they're going to get from Google, and they sort of know what information they're going to get from ChatGPT. So now they're launching a search engine, sort of. I don't know quite how the relationship with Bing is going to work, but it's going to be really interesting to see what that's like. It might just be a reskinned version of ChatGPT. I've not seen it yet. Yeah. But people are getting more comfortable with generative AI written answers for their questions. I think there's a challenge for Google especially because ChatGPT, I think people understand because it's new technology, the answers they get might not be perfect, and there's loads of examples about the kind of responses that ChatGPT has given has been just hilariously wrong. But I think for Google, people are going to expect Google to give only good answers, and so people are going to be forgiven of ChatGPT, but they will be less forgiving of the answers given by Google. I think Google know that, and that's why they're taking just so long to be able to get those integrated to their search results. So, and then how do we monetize that? How do we advertise on an AI-focused search engine? We don't know yet, actually. So this is coming over the next year. 2025 is going to be, very interesting to see what happens ChatGPT as a search engine, as an information source for consumers.
I look forward to that. And I feel like this would be one of the major disruptions in search, as opposed to maybe the AI in the background, the machine learning, the automation and all of that. And this would be probably something that will impact both consumers and advertisers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, we'll be here, folks.
Yeah,
Let's talk
absolutely.
about it.
Not going anywhere. And that's exciting to me in my role, It's going to be exciting to see what happens, what we can do next, It's an opportunity, but it's an opportunity to learn as well, and something else to get passionate about.
Yeah, and a big opportunity for brands as well. I look forward to seeing how a company graph would look like on ChatGPT or on SearchGPT.
Yeah.
Let's get into something maybe a little bit more technical, which are the key metrics for effective search advertising. So we spoke about CPC and how CPC is a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Again, I'm being very diplomatic here, very politically correct.
Sure.
But it's much higher, right?
Yeah,
than
absolutely.
other platforms. So we're talking maybe 2-3 folds higher, right?
It's more than that. I mean, look, you could, if you want to drive just cheap clicks, you could do it on programmatic or GDN or something like that for 2-3 cents, when you might be paying $1 or $2 on search. And so when you think, wow, that traffic has to work 50 times harder to be able to actually kind of, compare weight for weight. But it often can, because, if you're just reading a blog or whatever, you're not as engaged as someone who's gone to Google and told you they're looking for your product.
Right.
So CPC is important, but therefore you have to then justify it so much more, I think, to prove that actually it can be 50 times better and using attribution or whatever it is. And so I'm always a bit suspicious of, kind of clicks, I guess, as a key metric, because you can drive cheap clicks. It's much harder to drive quality traffic as well. And so look, for top of funnel awareness, if you can get cheap clicks on search, do it. It's very, very difficult to make search an awareness platform, because they have to be already aware before they start searching. And so I think search sits best within a mid-funnel, obviously a lower funnel, but obviously mid-funnel, I think as well. And so bottom funnel metric should always be ROAS and conversions.
Yeah.
And I think, we try and force in things like click KPIs into lower funnel, when I think actually it doesn't really deserve it, because we want people to get sales. And so it's but then the click side, like one thing I've had like really good success with, and maybe this is a good top tip and something I've discovered fairly recently, for mid-funnel activity like search, but also demand gen campaigns, which Google talk a lot about, optimizing towards things like engaged sessions, I think has worked really, really well. So when you look at how many clicks you get from a DGen campaign compared to how many sessions you then drive, there can be a huge amount of difference. And so you're paying to drive low quality traffic, but the algorithm's doing its job. It's getting you those cheap clicks. But a session also isn't quite good enough either, because they can bounce straight away. But there is a default metric in GA called engaged sessions. I can't bid towards that, but one thing I've done really successfully recently is you can recreate that engaged session conversion using the same methodology, using the same logic within a audience trigger within GA. So it's 10 seconds or 2 pages or 1 key event. Right. I can then import that into my Google Ads account and bid towards it. So now I'm not just optimizing towards a click, not just to a session. I'm optimizing towards an engaged session. And it's nice, and working towards one metric is much better than working to multiple. You can do value-based bidding and assign different values to each kind of conversion types, but how you come up with those is a bit difficult and a bit nebulous. And then you're working towards like a overarching bidding value, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in business terms. And even if the client understands it, the client's boss probably doesn't, and the client's boss's boss probably doesn't as well. So to have one industry standard metric, which it is engaged sessions in GA4, to bid towards that one thing that's easily understandable, that's probably how you do mid-funnel better. And I see mid-funnel campaigns that optimize towards things like add to baskets, which to my mind is still kind of a purchase intent. So we're not trying to drive purchase intent there and then, we're trying to drive awareness and consideration. Because kind of think about how people are searching and how they're engaging at that time. If they're in that middle funnel phase, they're quite passive still. Like they are, they're browsing at lunch. They've got a sandwich in one hand and their smartphone in the other hand, and they're looking through and gathering information. We're not trying to get them to convert there and then. We're trying to get them to convert when they've finished their lunch or finished their dinner. And now they've kind of got time to go into start adding to basket and buying. So the add to basket thing, to my mind, is part and parcel of the bottom funnel activity.
Right.
We're not trying to get them to show purchase intent there and then. We just want to get them to the site, get them engaged with it, get them loving the products.
Awesome. And if we talk about engaged session a little bit more,
Yeah.
right, and what makes up engaged sessions,
Yeah.
I suppose it could vary from brand to brand, from website to website, from journey to journey, right? I guess the best way to formulate an engaged session is to simulate a visit, right, to the website and really understand
Exactly.
what would be an engaged session from a time spent point of view, from a page views point of view, right?
Yeah, you can create your own. There is the default metric within Google Analytics, but what it means for your business, it depends on your website and your website structure. If you're e-commerce advertiser, you want someone to navigate a little bit to your category pages and navigate a little bit to start viewing some products, and that's kind of it for mid-funnel. But if you're selling credit cards, you want people to start to read the content, and so if that content's all on the same page, then you don't need to have multiple views. You just want to. You're better off tracking things like page scrolls or engagements or time on site, maybe not 10 seconds, no one's going to buy a credit card after 10 seconds of consideration. Maybe it's a minute. And so personalizing that to your needs, I think is really important. At least we've got a starting point with the engaged sessions as it is in analytics, but personalizing it for yourself, having that conversation, you don't even necessarily need a whole lot of data behind that because it's different for every client. So we'll figure out what works for you, but also have the courage to have that conversation, I guess, as well.
Right. I want us to move a little bit away from technical search.
Cool.
But before we do that, I just want to tap into one last
Sure.
topic on search. Search 360.
Okay.
What do you think of Search 360? Do you think there's
Search
value?
Ads 360.
Yes.
Yeah.
Search as SA 360.
Yeah.
Any value for it?
So
today?
yes, I mean, so it used to be the case that it was probably suitable for most advertisers. And now I think that's maybe not as much the case, because like on the Google ad side, you can now much more easily manipulate and control multiple accounts. Search Ads 360, you couldn't use multiple accounts, even Google accounts before. So Search Ads 360, if you had more than one account, was kind of vital. Now, in region, we don't even have that many advertisers that work on Bing.
Yeah.
You need to have a certain amount of spend before it becomes worthwhile. And you can just automate Bing by automatically linking your Google accounts to your Bing accounts. So if you've got multiple different types of accounts, Google accounts, Bing accounts, Baidu accounts, Yandex accounts, whatever, like SA360 is vital. As soon as you start talking about other channels, you need to have SA360 to be able to do that. And you used to need to have SA360 for algorithmic bidding, which is now available in Google Ads, of course. So it's a great tool, but it is always an enterprise level tool. You need to have a certain amount of spend to be able to get any value out of it. But when you do, you can get fantastic value out of it. And the inventory campaign functionality out of it to be able to turn a feed of information, be that a product feed or a hotel feed or a flight feed, turn that into real-time keywords is absolutely massive. So if you've got any feed, actually, if you are a small advertiser, Search Ads 360 you should probably look at. But it's not a magic wand. You can't say, I'm spending a small amount on Google Ads only, I need SA 360 and it'll do so much more, because it doesn't do the strategy for you. You still need to have great creative and great thinking and understand your customers and have a great website and the whole rest of it.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, because I feel like there's a question mark on the value for it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the level of information that you provided, or the areas, or the, I guess, requirements or the context for using SA360, right? Having accounts on other search platforms.
Yeah.
But I would wonder, what's a scenario where an advertiser would have several search engines, or would use several search engines? Is it a case where an advertiser is rolling out or is behind a global search campaign, or is after a global search campaign, whereby he would need to tap into markets that are
Yeah,
using
absolutely.
other search engines.
Exactly. It's about reach. In some countries, Bing has a bigger market share. In the UK, we would typically spend it's got about 5 or 6% market share, despite what Microsoft would tell you. But we would typically spend between 8 and 10% of our media budget on Bing because there's less competition there. So we could spend more because it performed better because of the lack of competition. In the US, not many US campaigns, but it's even more there. In region in the Middle East, it's 1.6% market share, so it becomes not worthwhile for most of our clients.
Right.
Why try and go to all that effort to get an extra 1.6% of spend? We might as well just spend our time focusing on Google. But if you are doing a global campaign, you need Bing in Europe and US, and if you're talking about China, you need to have Baidu. And Baidu's interface is all Mandarin, so if you want to manage it from a centralized team, you need to have a platform to be able to do that. And Search Ad 360 is the best for it. Yandex, a little bit controversial at the moment. Same deal. Naver as well, or any other platform. And also, Search Ad 360 have kind of suggested that they're going to start working into retail as well. So things like Amazon ads might well be in there soon. To have a unified platform for all that, the platforms that a paid search specialist would typically work on, it's really vital. So as soon as you start thinking about what is our global multi-country outside of region strategy, SA360 is vital.
Okay. Well, I have news for my tourism clients.
Good.
Yeah. Let's move to the next topic, which is identifying and hiring top paid media talents.
Yes.
Right. What would you look in a candidate? Right. You would expect that you would be looking for someone who's technical, because paid media today, right, with digital and all that, it is pretty sophisticated.
Look, I think it is technical. It has a technical element. I think the one thing I love about paid search, I think it is a combination of three things. For you to think like people skills on a matrix, right? You'd have people that are, I think there's a 3-prong matrix to it. There's people who are very personable and make good account directors and client service managers. There's people who are technical, i.e. like a developer or web developer. Or there is the more kind of creative side people as well, the designers. I think paid search does all that. We need to be innovative and creative. I think there is a technical skill to it as well, knowing how to do things in the interface fast, knowing how to upload ads without mistakes, that sort of thing. But also then also communicating what we've done to clients, because we're always going to know more about that technical knowledge. And as an agency especially, we need to put people in front of clients and have them be able to communicate what we've done and what we're doing next really, really effectively. So I look for kind of all those skills. So it's not just the technical part. I often think, can I put this person in front of a client? Are they an innovative thinker? Have they also got the technical skills? And so I kind of try and test all those things, see if they think creatively, ask what was a cool innovation you came up with recently, and how did you roll it out, and how did it work well? It's a question I always ask. I always ask them on the technical side. So explain to me, what's your approach on match type strategy? And that measures two things. It's either they give me a great, well thought out answer. If they parrot to me exactly what they are, that's okay. And for a more junior person, if they have kind of got an opinion about it, I love that. I favor this approach. This has worked for that client. That's fantastic. But secondly, it also tests whether they know what match types are, which is, I've interviewed people that don't always know that well. And it's like that old adage: you don't really explain something unless you can explain it to your grandma, right? If they can explain it simply, they understand it. And so I'm looking for that, not a kind of waffly answer in an interview. And then the personable part, that's obvious, when just how they talk and the level of passion, because we need that level of kind of authority with how they speak, because we need that when we put them in front of a client. So it's kind of all those things, knowledge, passion, being able to alliterate what their answers are.
Right. And what do you think would make a good paid media agency partner, right? So would it be transparency and communication? I think there are some challenges, right, for how agencies monetize versus how they can be really good partners.
So if I was to recommend to an advertiser a good agency, I think I think actually, we obviously work for an agency, so come and work with us always. But but no, I think jokes aside, like you should have the right size of agency for your kind of scale, I think, as well. Like if you're a very small advertiser, there's no point going to a massive agency because they might do good work, but they're never going to truly be a priority. You always want to be a priority. So I've had friends who've had small companies and they've done really well with small agencies because the small agencies are able to dedicate enough time and to really care about them and make them feel special, knowing that they're kind of small companies each. But if you're then you don't get the ability to do the higher level stuff that we're able to do as a much larger agency. So create customized attribution models and have a team of data scientists and be able to roll out BigQuery and ads data hub and the kind of higher level stuff that you need when you've got massive amount of spends. And so true, I think, is in the middle. If you're in a middle-sized advertiser, you need agency that has some of that, but also you're special to them as well. And so that, and also to get the best value out of your agency as well, I think you have to treat them like a partner. Because we work with some clients who see us as, it sees their job as to try and get us just the most amount of work done. And I think that actually we end up then focusing on things that do work, but aren't necessarily the best work. And actually, you hire an agency so that they can work on your strategy, not just uploading ads, not just changing keywords, but also having a long-term vision for what they want to achieve as an advertiser.
Yeah.
And so if we can all communicate as one big team, we enjoy our jobs more, we communicate better, we make less mistakes, I think, as well. We understand your business more, and results are much better. So there is a huge correlation, I think, between the clients that, the accounts that I guess we enjoy working on and the ones that get the best results, I think as well. So yeah, treat your agency like a partner because they are your marketing team. So treat them like they're one of your businesses. And that's what I say to the team. It's your money. I know it's the client's money, but I know it's the agency. But still, imagine if it was your money, what would you do? And I think you get best results that way,
right,
as well.
And even if you take search in particular, there's so much time that you can invest in planning for it, in like making sure that you've collected the right information, you've picked the right keywords, you've done the right research and homework, and splitting these keywords right into relevant keyword groups. And it could be done very quickly, but it can take time, right, to come up with the right search strategy. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's another good tip on the agency side as well. Like if you're working with an agency, everyone who works in that team should be able to say what the strategy is and basic things like how much budget are we spending this month. So I think that's a good test to see if you're working with the right agency or not counting how many changes they're making in change history or whatever. Yeah, I think there's that partnership is really important.
Yeah, I mean the level of granularity, on search, it's just...
Exactly. And so you can spend too much time planning, I think, as well. But the larger agencies you work with require that because if we can plan the right amount in the earlier phases, then it makes life much more easier down the line. Like I say to the team, don't just figure out how we're structuring the account, figure out how we're going to report on it as well, because it's so easy to just kind of create the accounts, create the campaigns, and we end up then making a rod for our own back a little bit later down the line when we think, how are we reporting on this, and are we testing anything? What have we tested? Because it becomes the end of the month, then we would want to say all the tests that we've done, and the tests we've either run are poorly structured, so difficult to report on, or worse yet, we haven't really tested all that much this month because we've been too busy uploading ads and having monthly reports and all that sort of stuff. Then less value is driven, less results that we kind of get overall. So the planning part is important. I'm also a big fan of doing the right amount because we need to also do work in the account. I have this concept with the team I've talked about with them, is the idea of polishing an account, because we spend time uploading ads and we spend time analyzing keywords and we spend time weekly reporting and the monthly reporting and client meetings and internal meetings, and it doesn't leave a whole lot of time for just going into an account and just swimming around in it, understanding it, making those tiny little tweaks of the ad creative and negating particular keywords, and just those tiny little optimizations that build up over time and end up getting great results. And so it's easy for those little things to miss, but actually it's the stuff that the tiny little things that we do, it's 1,000 little things that make the big difference, more than just the bigger kind of tests and topics that we tend to talk about on a monthly basis, at least.
Yeah. I mean, search is not off the shelf.
No.
Pick and choose your target segment.
No.
Your budget.
Yeah, exactly. and it's always on as well. And I think a mistake a lot of people make a lot of the time is to treat it like it's a more traditional advertising channel. It's not. It's an always on thing, So trying to treat it like it's a burst advertising, like it's a TV campaign, is just sort of wrong, because it sits there all the time, and budgets should be relatively consistent. And consistency is good for bidding algorithms as well. It's got a consistent amount of data, so it's much more likely to predict the audience and the bid and the keyword to serve that particular person. So,
are we ever going to move to a world where it does become more automated, right? There is a growing role of automation,
sure,
and AI, right? And in terms of like streamlining the process of optimization.
Yeah, look, that's where the trend is going. So I think I said some years ago, like eventually Google will get rid of keywords, and I got laughed at by my peers. And now it's becoming more and more true. Google rolled out shopping campaigns that were non-keyword focused. And the only way you've ever been able to advertise apps in Google Ads is through the automated app campaigns, which are not keyword focused or targeting focused. So it's all automated. So I think that will happen eventually. We have currently got the ability to basically buy PMAX inventory separately if you really want to do it manually, because you're paranoid about getting that control. You can do that. You can bid on the keywords, and you can bid on standard shopping campaigns, and you can do your own YouTube campaigns and your own display and whatever. I think it will get to the point where Google will pull the trigger and say automation only, like it has done with shopping campaigns near enough, like it has done definitely with apps. And so it's going to be the advertisers who are comfortable with that and most forward-thinking and have embraced that and have been embracing it for years, that are the ones that are therefore going to be like, fantastic, it's happened, we've got a head start already. And the ones who are desperate for control, desperately trying to get control over algorithms that are inherently black box, are going to be the ones that struggle a little bit and complain about it. So, I think it's important to know where the future is going, and it's going to be more automation, which means less control, and that is something we just need to kind of be comfortable with, which is tough. We want control, we want visibility.
Yeah,
that's going to happen less, I think, in the future.
So how do you suggest paid media managers can stay relevant with all these changes? Sure. Right?
So firstly, you have to understand that our role is not, we're not just analyzing data, we are now manipulating algorithms. So it used to be the case where I was, an analyst, and I would pull my keywords into a spreadsheet and I would analyze them and make actions. Then it used to be the case where I used to build digital machines, right? I would kind of create mechanisms for creating keywords and mechanisms for bidding, and you could understand it because it was kind of rule-based. And I've moved on from that. Now it's my job to look after algorithms. So I've used the terminology before. I'm now like a digital gardener. But algorithms are like plants, right? You need to give them the right amount of water and the right amount of light, and eventually they'll grow up. And you don't always know why they don't necessarily grow as much as you want them to. But if you can give them the right environment to flourish, they probably will. And so that is my role. For someone like PMAX, I need to water it with good quality creative. I need to feed it with good quality audiences. I need to think about my strategy and what I'm doing with it as well. I need to understand where I can influence it and where I need to just sort of trust it. And so it'll grow big and healthy, like a big, strong plant. And so that's our role nowadays, I think.
You almost become like a product manager.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Trying to...
an AI product manager.
Yeah, exactly. And so you need to just trust your plants to grow big and strong themselves. Recognizing that you can't control everything all the time, which is a terrifying thing for business. Businesses love control, they love predictability, and that is just not the reality of the situation.
Right. Speaking of businesses, why don't we end up or end this conversation by tapping into this final topic, which is crafting and winning in-house and agency collaboration.
Yeah.
Right. It's something that we touched on a little bit at the beginning of the episode. Right. So some of the areas that I'd like you to tap into are aligning goals, ensuring accountability, evaluating long-term agency partnerships.
Yeah, sure. So it all starts with the goals, I think, because I've kind of joked before that all I need is a budget and a KPI and then to be left alone for a month. And that's not really true, of course, because we need, continuing help from our clients. But yeah, it starts with that. And so when the client says sort of how much should we spend and what should our CPA be, it's kind of a red flag, because I don't know how much a lead is worth to you. I don't know how much profit you're making on particular products. I can often do a whole lot of analysis for search demand and how much impression share we need and trying to forecast that sort of stuff. But it's focusing on the media and not your objectives. So if we know the budget that you've got and you've calculated that effectively internally before giving it to us, we can help, of course, on that approach. Then it puts us in much better stead, I think, as well. And when you know how much a lead is worth to you, or how much a sign-up is worth, or even how much a particular type of conversion is worth, then that's the difficult part of our job done, because then I've got something to work towards. And that's what I can put into the budget and the target ROAS or target CPA that I put into my bidding algorithm, knowing that it will then try and hit that. So just making sure you are firm with them and they are based on your business goals, I think, not on what your competitors are doing, I think is a really important part too. We talked a bit about how we can be a partnership.
Yeah.
I think we as an agency as a practitioner we always know much more about the paid media side than they do, and so trust us with our strategy. But our clients are always going to know much more about their business than we ever are. So the value they can really drive is just tell us about your audience. Tell us about not just, because I think in audiences in terms of, what I apply to campaigns and their in-market audiences and groups, whereas clients think about their audiences in terms of human beings, actual people. What are they doing? What are we trying to get them to do? And so the truth is in the middle, I think, a lot of the time. You need to kind of see, need to kind of find that balance between that as well. And that will inevitably create a good agency partnership.
Right. And also speaking of accountability or ways, right, to collaborate with the client, what has worked for you, right, in terms of like having that open channel with the client or having that open comms?
So I think there's a couple of ways. One, I think like too much communication could be a bad thing, but not enough is definitely a bad thing. And so the more time we spend speaking, the less time we spend doing. And I always want to make sure, and actually clients don't appreciate, we spend a lot of time preparing for the talking. We prepare a lot for client meetings or weekly meetings, and that is inevitably time away from optimizing things. And so if we have too many meetings, we're planning for too many meetings, we are therefore at risk at not doing enough actual doing in the account. So I think there's definitely that as well. But also, building genuine relationships, I think, as well, seeing us as part of the team and actually on a human level, understanding who they are, what they want to achieve, I think, as well. And not just thinking about their business and what they want to achieve, literally them as well, It's my job to make my clients look good to their boss. Because, sometimes we don't get the results that we really want. But if they like us and they trust us and they know that we got better results than any other agency would have done, because we've communicated it, we've cumulatively came up with a plan and rolled it out, and it either worked really well or didn't quite work so well, but at least we can understand why it didn't. Then we're not going to lose them as a client, because we've done everything we possibly could in the right way. So, I think that it's about human connections, and that's business, right? To a whole, everything. Business is just about human connections at the end of the day.
Right, I like that, human connection. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to, hire robots. You want someone who has some form of emotion, right? An opinion.
Exactly, yeah.
Right,
and so they can have an opinion, we can have an opinion, we can have a frank conversation amongst people who respect each other and come out with a much better strategy at the end.
Right. Rapid fire question.
All right.
Is search still the highest ROI driving platform?
Yes. because we can prove it. I mean, I can prove it down to the penny. And if you are taking into account things like impression-based conversions to be able to plot your case, I would argue that's always, stretching it a little bit. So yeah, paid search, because it's always click-based, always going to drive best ROI.
Excellent. Richard Hartley, where can we find you? LinkedIn?
Find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say I'm on Instagram, but I hate it. So that is part of why I love paid search, because I kind of hate social media. But yeah.
Are you on X?
Hit me up on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn?
Nope.
Okay.
Just on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is well.
Yeah, be interesting to hear some messages about comments as well. And I'll read the comments on the YouTube video as well.
Amazing. Thanks so much for coming to the show. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. It was really cool.